Okay, my friends, welcome back to part 2 of this lovely little tutorial. How do you find this coming along? I think quite nice. We're getting there. I'm going to do these cliffs here and this cliff here, and we'll see how we go from there then, yes? How about that? How does that sound? There's just one thing I want to fix, this middle part here. It looks a bit messy, doesn't it? I just want to fix some of this. It just looks a bit funny, I think. I'm just going to scrape some colour down there like that. Maybe take some Naples yellow. It's just, I just want to tidy this one area up just a little bit. Just a touch. That's better, I think. That's better. Let's go and paint this cliff. I think we'll start with this one, yes? I have a medium brush, medium flat brush. Let's get some thinners and some burnt sienna. And I'm going to go for a medium shade here now, a nice warm shade. I'm going to say burnt sienna and, let me see, some cadmium red perhaps. I want to go for a very warm brown here for this. That may be too warm, so I'll add some Naples yellow to this. And again, plenty of thinners in this. I want this nice and thin, but not too watery, if you understand what I mean. Let me have a look at that now. Okay, maybe a touch of magenta. Okay, I'll use that. Let's just use this and fill this in with this colour. I'm going now my own with this. I'm just making it my own, okay? And like that. I'm just looking at the reference photograph very kind of loosely. Only for shapes, that's all. Colours, I'm not kind of looking at colours too much. It's really just for the shape. I just want to get the shapes a little bit close to what's there. Does that make sense? Alright, that'll do. That will do fine. Let's just fill this in. Fill this all in. Just some burnt umber, burnt sienna. You see how thin this is now? It's nice and thin. It's like watercolour basically. Don't have to go too thick with oils at the beginning. So we're just building up again. The very same as this one, we're just going to build our layers. Build up our layers, that's all we're doing. Okay, yeah, that's fine, that will do. I'm going to go over to this one, clean my brush. I'm going to give this a kind of a soft brown. I'm going to go Naples yellow, burnt umber. Naples yellow and burnt umber. I think that will do me nicely. Let me get some Naples yellow on my palette. And I'll need some burnt sienna as well. A little bit of burnt sienna. It's amazing, isn't it, how quickly the paints disappear off your palette when you're painting. I find it's just amazing, isn't it? They go nowhere sometimes. Some colours go very quickly, other colours stay for very long. But that's just the way painting is, isn't it? So I'll come down here now. Fill this in with that colour. Very thin. Very, very thin mix. Come down here like that. Now, it's very bright where it meets the first one, isn't it? So I'm going to go in there with some thick Naples yellow, a little white, and a touch of cadmium yellow as well. So I'm going to go in there and make a nice, thick, crisp kind of a line just where they meet. Look, just come down like that. Then it comes out and it comes down and back out again, and you can see it's picking up the colour from underneath, but that's fine. I like that because it creates different colours and all that kind of thing, doesn't it? So I like when that happens. And we'll just cover this in. There we go. All covered in nicely. We can take our time then and work on shapes. Now I may have to do a part 3 for the water because I really do want to take my time with the reflections. I want to do them nice. I really do. I don't want to be rushing at the last minute. So I'm going to just take some Naples yellow now, and I'm going to sort of soften some Naples yellow into this. You will see me jumping from left to right a lot. And the reason for that is, the way I paint is, I find, when you have a colour on your brush, you might as well use it for something else if it's the same colour. So that's why if I'm putting a dark brown here, I might as well use a dark brown for over here as well. That's the only reason I jump around on the canvas. A lot of people tend to stay in one part of their painting and work on it, but it's good, I think, it's good practice to use the colour you have on your brush and kind of jump around on the canvas while you have it, because otherwise you're only mixing colours 2 or 3 times when you already have the colour you want. So look, I'll do the same here. I'm going to darken it as it comes down. A little bit of burnt umber and black, softening it through. Now, if you are not confident with your brush, let's say, some people are not, you can by all means just grab a palette knife and do this with the palette knife as well, scraping. You can just do that. It's completely up to yourself. It's your painting. There's no rules. I just like to kind of fill in spots with the brush first. I just think it gives me that bit of, it gives me more freedom, because once you put a colour on with the palette knife, it's very thick and it's very difficult then to work that colour in, or if you want to change it or whatever, it gets quite difficult. So that's why I always tend to kind of, start with a brush first. It works for me. Now a little bit of black, touch of brown, come over here and start, let's just start creating, I suppose, some overhangs. Look, a couple of overhangs like that. A bit of a rock coming out here, like that. It's all little shapes. These darks will become the rocks later as well, you see. And we will use a lot of palette knife as well. We'll go up here and soften a bit of that browny black just in here, creating what I like to call gradient of colour. So going from a kind of a light to the dark here and there, just creating a bit of interest rather than having it just one colour and one shape. So, even now it's starting to come to life a little bit, isn't it? We could, I suppose, put some real dark colour in down the bottom here. I'm going to take some black and some magenta. So I'm just going to dab some very dark. It could be rocks, it could be bits of bushes, it could be anything. It could be anything you want it to be. I'm just creating a very dark area down at the bottom, and I'm just kind of softening it up then here and there. I'm just dabbing with my brush, that's all. It just creates the illusion of lots of little details down here in that side. That's all it does, really. Oh, I can go up again another bit. While I have that colour on my brush, I'll just add a couple of darks here and there. I'll go up here and just sort of mess around with my brush and see what I can create, really. It's all what I call messing around with the brush. That's what I would say. Just messing around, see what happens. You see what I mean? You're just kind of dabbing the brush around, creating little shapes and textures. And I can do the same. Well, I have that black now, you see, I'll do the same over here. Creating a little dark here, little dark there and there. Just really kind of having a bit of fun with all of this. Now I'm going to just put that brush down, and I'm going to go to a smaller flat brush, just something to give me a bit more control. I'm going to take some cadmium red, burnt sienna, and I'm just going to give a bit of a warm glow to some of these shadows here. Just a little bit of a glow, that's all. Neat paint on its own. Just want to give them a little bit of a glow, that's all. And there we go. It's almost time for the palette knife. But before I do, I'm just going to use this brush again and put in lots of bright colours on this. So very whitey yellows. Take some white and Naples yellow and even a touch of cadmium. Tiny touch. Create a very whitey, creamy kind of a yellow colour. Let's go on and put some nice bright highlights on this. So I'm going to come down like this. Okay, that's one little ledge we have finished. And then come down like that. You see what I mean? I tend to kind of just give them a little bit of a wiggle as well as I'm going here and there. Just creating little ledges, the lights of the rocks. That's kind of what I'm doing really, creating the light colours on the rocks. And we see, when we get to a palette knife then, we can kind of add a lot to these, add some texture. So this is really just the initial kind of stages. I'm not, I'm not going to worry about trying to get this perfect first time. There we are, I'm just leisurely popping some paint on, not being too concerned at the moment. I'm just having a bit of fun with my brush, that's all. Isn't that right? So I'm okay with that now. Could pop a couple of suggestions here and there. Maybe bring one here. And you can see now how loose this all is. I'm not worried about detail yet. I'm just concerned really about getting some of the shapes in, that's all. I'm just thinking about getting some of these shapes onto the rock. After that we'll worry then about little details and stuff like that. So look, let's go up here and just scrape our brush. Again, creating some light. And keep cleaning your brush. That's the advice I would say. That's what I would say to you. Keep cleaning your brush every few minutes. That keeps your colour nice and fresh. Cadmium yellow, little white. Again, nice and bright, look. Let's go. Just scrape the brush along. And this is all just setting us up for the palette knife. And I'm probably ready for the palette knife now at this stage. I go back to my flat palette knife. Let's create some texture. I'll go with some darks first, I think. I'm going to start mixing a few darks. Put some shadows in here. Again, black and brown. Probably a touch of magenta. And just mix a little bit. Look, you only need a little bit. That's all. You don't have to go mixing tons and tons of paint on your palette. Just for a few rocks, do you? Scrape a few bits here and there, look, that's all. Let's just have some fun with all of this. I might take a bit of Naples yellow in this, just to tone it down slightly. And look, just generally, scrape some colour on there. I find rocks are probably the easiest thing to paint because, especially with a palette knife, because you instantly get that feeling of rough rocks and texture and cracks and all that kind of stuff, don't you? I find it's just, sometimes, it's just a pleasure. It really is a pleasure to paint rocks and stuff like that. Now, my next thing, I'm going to make some nice little purple for all of this. Let's take some blue and lots of magenta with some white. I'm going to make a nice mauve for in here. So, a nice deep mauve. Let's just go in here. Again, as if we're in the shadows, but it's a kind of a vibrant shadow. Does that make sense? That type of a shadow. Just pop some in here and there. And that will bring your shadows to life. And maybe put a little bit up here. And a little bit here and there. Just dabbing it around, look. Just creating a little bit of interest in the colours. My next thing now I'm going to do is go back to a pointy brush. I'm going to take a small pointy brush and go with some black. And I just want to pick out some of the rocks on this cliff here. So I can see there's a nice one here. I'm going to put that in and just dab the colour around. Soften it in here and there. So we're just refining now. I'm just refining some areas. And use plenty of thinners. Don't be shy with your thinners. For me, it's about creating the illusion of something. The illusion of a rock or the illusion of a shadow. I'm not going to try, again, as I keep saying, I'm not going to try and paint every individual little rock and every individual little shadow. It's a lot of work if I'm trying to do it that way. I just kind of try and suggest details, that's all. Now we have lots of lights going over this as well with the palette knife, so you know, don't try and get this perfect. If it doesn't look like a rock, don't worry, it doesn't need to look exactly like a rock. Once it's a suggestion of a rock or a shadow, that's all you want, really. I'm just kind of going along here now, popping a few colours in. Again, trying to make just a little suggestion. Small suggestions of little cracks and all that kind of thing. You see, that kind of probably looks pretty much like a bit of a mess, doesn't it? At the moment. But not to worry. Not to worry. We will get our palette knife here now in just a moment and try to make this look like nice textured rocks. I'm just getting some Naples yellow and white just to pop in some highlights, very bright highlights on some of those rocks. So you go on here, look, let's just pop one in here. You could probably just even use mostly white if you want to really get it bright. Let's put another nice big one in here, look. Just remember, keep cleaning your brush, because I'm picking up darker colours here now and it gets messy if you do that. So just keep cleaning your brush, that's all. In between, just wash it quickly and go back into some paint. Okay, let's go for a nice bright one here, look. And I might just end up covering all of this with a palette knife. Who knows? You know, that's the way painting goes, isn't it? You just don't know. Let's get a palette knife and try it. Cadmium yellow, Naples yellow, and lots of white. Let's see if we can just create some nice lights on this. Lots of paint on the palette knife, look. And we just come down like this. Scrape. Scrape some texture. What I would do as well with this is, to create distance, I generally soften the distant colours in, you know, slightly to each other, and then I make these ones slightly more crisp. I think that kind of works well. But it's all kind of trial and error really, I suppose. You just try something, if it works, great. If not, you just try something else. So, as you can see, I'm probably going back over a lot of this now with a palette knife. And that's okay. You just do what you feel you need to do to get the effect that you're looking for. That's what I tend to do in painting, you know. If you find the brush isn't working, then you just grab a palette knife and see if that works. That's the fun of painting, isn't it? Trying different things. Create little rocks, that kind of thing, look. And you should eventually end up with an impression of what you want, you know. The problem is, I would say, don't go too much on it, because it'll end up looking completely different to what you're trying to achieve. So be careful not to overwork. It's very easy to overwork a painting with a palette knife. Very, very easy. Now I'm going to just sit back, take a look at that. And that's not bad. I'm pretty happy with that. It's impressionistic. I'm not too worried about details and all of that. I think I'll just leave that as it is for now. Go over and start adding some soft colours onto this one. Burnt sienna, crimson, or not crimson, magenta, and some white. Burnt sienna, magenta, and white. Maybe a touch of naples yellow, just for a bit of fun. Let's go over here and just create some texture on these as well, look. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Then I go with some darker colour, burnt sienna, burnt umber, and some cadmium red. Pop a little darker colour in here. And I'm going to refine the edge of this now slightly as well. Just here and there, look. I suppose you could say a lot of this is palette knife work, isn't it? But if that's what works, then why not? You know, it's nice sometimes to do something with a palette knife as well, and not be restricted to using a brush all the time. I use a brush for a lot of stuff. For most of my paintings, I like a brush. But for texture and rocks and stuff like this, a palette knife is ideal. It's perfect. Just grab one and try it. You see now, look, we've lots of different textures going on here, little lines and stuff like that. And it just adds up to a nice little scene. Finally, I'll just take a pointy brush with some black, and I'll just go up and refine some of these. Just make some nice hard edges on these, that's all. And could also come down here and just create some little bits of detail with the pointy brush as well. When I say detail, again, it's just little lines, cracks, that kind of stuff. Think of rock when you're doing this. Jagged edges, sharp, dark cracks in the rock. Okay? That's all, just think that. And I might come over here and just, again, add some little lines here. I'm not focusing on painting anything in particular with all of this. I'm just kind of creating the impression of little cracks, that kind of stuff. It's an impression. We're done with our cliffs, I think, pretty much. I might just add a tiny bit of light colour across some of this, just to bring out some lights. Just here and there. You know what I mean? Just like that. And perhaps one or two dabs of light down at the end of this, creating that little bit of a glow down there. Perhaps it's catching the reflection of the brightness from some of the cliffs. Okay? Just a bit. And that's my 2 cliffs finished. I will just soften very gently. One or two. Just one or two. I don't want to soften it back in too much, but just to lose some of the lines, create a bit of mystery. I'm almost just dabbing, really. It just creates a bit of mystery in the painting, I think. So you're not showing it's an actual rock. If you want to spend 2 hours painting little rocks bit by bit, yes, great. But I just don't have the patience for that. That's not my type of work. Let's start painting some of the reflections, shall we? How are we doing for time? They're pretty good, I would say. Let's start. Start some reflections. I'm going to go up here and just start filling in all of this area first, I think. And we'll go from there. We'll see what happens, my friends, yes? Let's look at that. It's kind of a browny grey, I can see up there. Bit of grey, so a bit of black, a bit of brown, maybe a touch of white. Let's try a touch of white. It's a dull colour. Very, very dull kind of a colour up here. Maybe a touch of sienna. It's a kind of a reflection of what's up there already, isn't it? So I'll just pop that in. Nice and gently. I'll pop a few touches of sienna here and there. And then I'll grab, let me see, I'll grab a little light mauve perhaps. And I might just pop a little mauve in there as well. Now, come down in front of these. A lot of this here, I suppose, will be, a lot of this is going to be trial and error, I think. You know, in the distance, everything sort of disappears. It kind of, on the reflections, it almost disappears into that mountain in the background. So I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. So it just disappears. Now, for these big ones, I'm going to go for a bigger brush. I'm going to try and simplify this for you. I really am. So I just need to get plenty of paint on my palette now because we have a lot of reflection here. I'm going to take a big brush, nice and damp, lots of burnt sienna, and a bit of black. Maybe a touch of cadmium red. I'm going for a very rich dark brown for this now, alright? That's good. Maybe a touch more cadmium red. What I'm going to do with this is simply put in a darker colour of what's there and drag down. Okay? You see that? I'm going to stop about here and just drag all that colour down. Then come from the bottom up. Take bits of sienna on its own, soften that through. Then take bits of burnt umber on its own and soften that through. Here and there. See how I'm dancing around on this? Now I get some black and I put some black. Maybe a touch of magenta as well. So I'm looking at the photograph and I can see it's a nice rich dark reddy brown, isn't it? It's a blacky brown. So I'm just putting that colour in here and there and dragging it down, look. There we go. I'll stop at that, then I'll get some black. This is very black over here. It's almost in blackness. Over on this side, it comes along. Then dip into some sienna, maybe. Why not? There's a bit of sienna there, so we'll take some sienna, pop some sienna in there as well. And I'm looking at the shapes of the reflections. You see the way the black comes down and it kind of creeps across, doesn't it, slightly? So I'm just going to bring it across like that. So I keep going now over towards this crack slightly. I get some sienna and black, maybe. Dab it into the rock so it almost disappears. Just simply following the shadows perpendicular, okay? That's all. So if the shadow is if this darkness is going up at an angle like this, okay? You see the way it's at an angle? Then just bring this at a slight angle as well. Alright? Just like that. Just make sure your brush strokes are vertical like this, okay? Pulling them down. That's the important part, that's what I would say. Just make sure they're nice and straight coming down, look. Alright, that's one there, and I'm just going to darken a little bit here as well. And a little bit here. You can see it pretty much looks almost black, doesn't it? So we have that one done. Let's clean the brush. Make sure your brush is really nice and clean. Now we just have to do the lighter ones. And take your time with this. This is the fun part now of the entire painting, I think, for me. Getting the reflections, it will just brighten everything up and bring everything to life. Let's take some Naples yellow with a little white. Okay, nice thick paint. And let's, drag this down here like this. Okay, just using the brush on edge, drag them down. And you see the way I'm pulling them together. So I'm taking some Naples yellow, look, and some white. And I'm just going to drag down like this. And I'm pulling some of the darker colour into the Naples yellow, look, creating these sort of dragged reflections. Clean the brush again, just keep it clean in between, and I'll go again over here. It's very kind of bluey here, isn't it? But I'm still going to put a little touch of it in here for those hills in the distance, just a little touch. Okay. We have the same here, don't we? Again, keep the brush clean. Naples yellow, a little white. Maybe a touch of burnt umber. My only goal here is to cover the white of the canvas, that's all. Alright? That's my goal. That's all I'm trying to achieve, is to get the white of that canvas away. And after that we can have a bit of fun. You know, mixing colours together and all that kind of thing. See the way I'm just dragging these down now, mixing the two kind of almost together. So you can begin to see a reflection taking place, can't you? And it takes time. Don't try and rush it. Don't try and get it all done in one go. Take your time. I'm now going to get some blue, some magenta, and lots of white. We have a nice soft kind of a blue in here, don't we? The magenta is the key to keeping this nice and warm. Catch some of that blue sky, look. Again, plenty of magenta. I always put a bit of pink in between a blue and a brown, or a blue and a yellow. A little touch of pink on the brush, look, because that then stops everything from going green. And you can mix them together then just nicely, you see. Okay. At this stage, it's just a case of softening everything kind of together very gently with the very tip of your brush. Look, dragging everything down, creating a nice soft reflection. You can use a soft blender brush for this as well if you like, that's absolutely fine. But this is fairly soft, the brush I'm using, so I'm going to use this as I'm here. Because we still have all these lovely brights in the centre, don't we? That ripple effect on the water and all of that. Now, just to show you, let's just get our soft blender brush and pull all of this together. Very gently, I'm just barely touching the canvas. And then we can go across very gently as well, look. So you can begin to see reflections coming to life on the canvas, can't you? Okay. What do you think so far? It's not bad, is it? I think we should get some palette knife work going, don't you? Let me load up my palette here. We grab a palette knife and we have a bit of fun with some ripples and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to get some white, a little magenta perhaps. I'm going to take a flat-edged palette knife again. I'm going to start putting some darks in. I want to get the darks in here first. So some black and a little bit of brown. I'm just going to go over here and create a very rough ripple. Look, left and right, left and right. Don't go at an angle, don't go up and down or anything. Keep it left and right all the time. When you're painting water, everything has to be left and right. I'm going to cut in to these here. Just cut right into these reflections with that dark. I'm just going to get down here, further down. And let me get some black on my palette. I'm going to do the same with each colour, alright? So I'm going to go, you see this blacky red colour? I'm going to do the same with that. Some black, red and some sienna. I'm going to come over here and do the very same with that, look. I just want to create these ripples, that ripple effect on the water. Alright, just here and there. Put a little bit there. I'll clean the palette knife. I'm then going to do the same with the light ones. Some Naples yellow and a little white. Okay, create some of that, look. You could even drag some of these as well if you want. Okay, I'm caught with the timber at the bottom here, so I'm just going to maybe put a few little wiggles here and there as well. Now I also want to create some of the darks in this. So I think the easiest thing for that is to take a small brush, small pointy brush, get some browny colour, bit of dark grey or something, a little bit on the brush, and just pull some of those as well. And then just drag it down with your soft blender brush again. So we're going quite well, aren't we now, in fairness? I think we're going quite nicely. I just need to put a little bit of that over here. Left and right, just sort of letting the canvas take off the paint. Rather than pushing the paint onto the canvas, I'm more letting the canvas drag the paint off of my knife. It's that type of feeling, okay? Now, maybe a little white here and there, further away. And we're on to our blues. So I'm going to take some dark blue first. I'm going to mix a bit of dark blue. Some blue, some white, maybe a touch of magenta. I'm just going to pop some dark blues. Make sure it's well mixed now. I'm going to pop a few dark blues in here and there first. Okay. I'll be going over a lot of this now, so don't worry. Don't worry too much. And then I'm going into whitey blues. So again, some blue and lots of white. And I'm just going to simply go along like this and wiggle that whitey blue here and there around the centre of the painting, but I'm going into the reflections, you see, I'm going into the lights and the darks as well slightly, just to create that kind of rough effect in the centre. I'm just going to pull my canvas out slightly so I can get to the bottom of my canvas. Hope you don't mind. So I think we're getting there slowly, yes? And most of this was done with a palette knife when you think about it, really. You know, you're only using the brush for filling in areas, but I'd say 80% of this was the palette knife. So it just shows you how fun the palette knife can actually be. Now again, more whitey kind of a blue. And I just want to create very rough water down here. So it's kind of turbulent, it's coming along, it's all very kind of turbulent. And a bit over into this one here. Now once I have the blue section done, I can then go into my white. Alright, just white on its own, just to really brighten this up. Just keep grabbing little bits of white. Now I could have, if I wanted to, I could have done all of this with a brush and did very kind of fine little reflections, but I think you would have probably found it maybe a little bit overwhelming. So that's for another day, that kind of reflection. Just using brushes. I just wanted to kind of simplify this for you today, using, you know, a palette knife, a few brushes, just to show you that you don't have to go into huge amounts of detail to get an effect. You really don't. You can just, you don't have to use a brush to get lots of details, you know, you can just grab a palette knife and let that do the work for you. We're nearly there. We're nearly finished, my friends. This didn't take very long now, did it? So, once that's done, I'm simply going to take my soft brush and very gently soften these away into the reflections themselves. Look, very gently. I'm just very gently taking the surface of the paint off. Okay? I don't want to lose the reflections completely, but I'm just very gently taking some of the thickness of that paint away, soften it away very, very gently. Now that's perfectly adequate for reflections. That's perfectly adequate. If you want to leave it like that, you can, by all means. It's absolutely fine. But I am going to go for a small pointy brush, and just here and there perhaps, with some white, let's just add a couple of little ripples here and there. This just gives you that final little touch of detail, I suppose. You could do even look little dots here and there. It just adds that final touch to the water. And you can take all the time in the world you want to do this. I'm just kind of darting around, popping little bits in here and there, just to, you know, just to show you just roughly what you can achieve just by dabbing the brush here and there, creating little areas. There's a little bit of a white there now that I'm not happy with, so I might just scrape that off. Just soften that away just a little, and just grab a little white. And it's all wet and wet, so the paint will kind of disappear very quickly. Now this was just a kind of a loose effect that I was doing for this painting. You can, if you like, take your time and put in some real proper details. If that's what you like to do, please do. But I was just kind of really trying to show you how to create something using basic enough techniques and not having to worry about putting too much detail into something. So that was the objective of this lesson, really, just to show you how you can take something that looks very complicated and make it easy to understand and comprehend. You know, don't worry too much about getting something exactly the same. That was my objective, I would say. So I hope I've achieved that for you, my friends. I really do. And I think I'm going to stop. I think I'll stop because, you know, there's always a risk that you can overdo something. Just be careful, you know. You can overdo something as well. So just take your time and be careful. I will leave it at that. I don't think I'll bother putting any birds or anything into this. I don't feel I need to. I'm fairly happy with this result. So yes, that's it, my friends. I hope you've... let me just fix this here now for one moment. I do apologise. I hope that's helped you in your endeavour. There we go. That was nice. I might soften some of the reflections off in the distance, just back into the painting very slightly, just like that. Just a little, you know, softening them away to create more distance. But yeah, I'm very happy with that. That turned out very, very nice. I hope you've enjoyed it. A very textured painting, but just done very kind of loosely and very quickly. Do you understand what I mean? You can take your time if you want. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. I'll be on Patreon in the next day or so with a new tutorial for my patrons. Thank you so much, my friends, for your support. That's it. I'm going to finish my cup of coffee. I'm going to sit back and look at this, see what I think. Maybe just add one or two small things. Maybe not. Maybe just leave it. Just sit back and look and be proud of what you've done. Okay? Be proud and give yourselves a pat on the back. Thank you so much. I'll see you very soon. God bless.